Today we are going to look at the percent proportion to solve percent problems. So in a percent proportion, one ratio compares part of a quantity to the whole quantity, also called the base. The other ratio is the equivalent percent written as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So let's look at an example. 3 out of 5 is 60%. So when we look at this, if we're talking about 3 out of 5, 3 is our part. So our percent proportion is part over whole equals percent over 100. The whole is 5. 3 out of 5 is 60%. And then we write that percent out of 100. So our percent proportion is part over the whole equals the percent over 100. And it's like that every time. One thing you might also, some people remember part and whole is over of. And that might make a little more sense in a minute, where is represents the part and of represents the whole. And we'll look at that in a little bit. Another thing we want to look at is the relationship of the percent proportion. So there's really 3 ways that we could look at this. We can look at the relationship from here to here. So from 3 to 60 is times 20. And from 5 to 100 is times 20. And we did that when we were converting fractions to percents. So I could look at this horizontal relationship. 3 times 20 is 60. 5 times 20 is 100. I could also look at the vertical relationship here. If I reduced 60 100ths, that would reduce to 6/10, which would then reduce to 3/5. And so 3/5 is equivalent to 3/5. I could also look at it diagonally. 5 times 60 is 300, and 3 times 100 is 300. So there's several ways I can look at it. Vertically, horizontally, diagonally. So let's actually do a percent problem. 22 is what percent of 110? This is where the is and the of can kind of help us out here. So right now we're just finding the percent, so that's a hint as to what we're looking for. 22 is what percent of 110? So 22 is, that's going to help me know that that is my part. We do not know the percent. And we know that we're asking for of 110, which is going to be our whole. So remember earlier I said that is can represent the part, of can represent the whole. So I'm going to set up my proportion. If 22 is the part and 110 is the whole, I do not know my percent, but I always know that the percent is out of 100. So the first thing I can do is cross multiply. So I could cross multiply 22 times 100. And then secondly, divide. So I could cross multiply 22 times 100 and divide by 110. However, I don't really want to work with those big numbers. So I'm going to actually reduce this down a little bit and make this an easier problem. So 22 over 110 can reduce. And they can reduce by 11. So that reduces to a 2, and 110 divided by 11 is 10. That reduces to 2/10. But I can also reduce it more. So that reduces to 1/5. So my new proportion looks like 1/5 equals x over 100. Now again, I can solve this by cross multiplying. 100 times 1 is 100, and then divide that by 5. And 100 divided by 5 is 20. And since I'm looking for my percent, that's 20%. Again, the different relationships, you may have also noticed that from 5 to 100 is times 20. So 1 times 20 would be 20%, 20 over 100. I would like for you to try letter A on your own. Go ahead and pause and try it, and then we'll work it out. So 7 is what percent, we don't know the percent, of 49. So 7 is our part, so it goes on top. 49 is our whole. We do not know the percent, so x over 100. Now in this case, I'm going to cross multiply. So 100 times 7 is 700, and then divide by 49. Now again, you could have reduced this to 1 over 7, and that's totally fine. You'll get the same answer. And when we do this, we get 14.3%. Okay, here's a word problem. Ben's soccer team played 25 games and won 17 of them. What percent did the team win? So now we have to pick out what our part and our whole is. So they played 25 games and won 17. And it says of them. Them is the game. So that's going to be our whole. Our whole is 25 games. So we have part over whole equals percent out of 100. The part is 17. The whole is 25. We do not know the percent, so x over 100. Now I could cross multiply and divide. However, I can see that I can multiply times 4 to get to 100, so I could multiply this times 4. 17 times 4 is 68%. Okay, let's look at finding the part now. So what number is 20% of 220? What number is? That is going to be our part. We don't know what our part is. Of 220 is our whole. And we know that our percent is 20 over 100. So I'm actually going to reduce this down. I can reduce 20 100ths by 10, that's 2 tenths, and that is going to give me 1/5. So now I can cross multiply 220 times 1, divide by 5, and I get 44. Try number 1 on your own, and we will check that in class tomorrow. Okay, number 2, Yolanda's club has 35 members. It requires that 60% of them must be present for any vote. At least how many members must be present for them to vote? So the total, the whole, is going to be 35 because that is the total number of people in the club. So we know 35 is our whole. It requires that 60%, so our other side is the percent, must be present to vote. And we do not know the part because that's the number of people that are going to be able to vote. Again, I can reduce 6 tenths, or 60 over 100 to 6 tenths, which then reduces to 3/5. And again, I could cross multiply and divide, but I can see that 5 times 7 is 35, so 7 times 3 would be 21. So they must have 21 members to vote. The next thing we're going to do is find the whole. So this says 24 is 75% of what number? So remember we have part over the whole. You can remember that as is over of for these types of problems equals the percent over 100. So 24 is, that is our part. We do not know what the whole is, so that's x. And we know our percent is 75 over 100. Now I'm going to reduce 75 hundredths to 3/4. That's going to make it an easier problem. And now I have 24 over x equals 3 over 4. Again, I could cross multiply and divide. However, I can see that 3 times 8 is 24, so 4 times 8 would be 32. Okay, I'd like for you to try letter A on your own, and we will check this in class. Let's look at the word problem, B. 30% of Mrs. Johnson's class made an A on the percent test. If 9 students made an A, how many total students are in Miss Johnson's class? So we know our proportion is part over whole equals percent over 100. Let's start with the percent because that's the easiest. So we're going to do 30 over 100. And I'm actually going to go ahead and reduce the percent. Our part, 9 students make the A. And we want to know the total number of students. So 9 is our part, and we do not know the total number of students. So I could cross multiply and divide. That's actually pretty easy. 10 times 9 is 90, and 90 divided by 3 is 30. So 30 students are in Miss Johnson's class. You could have also seen that 3 times 3 is 9, so 10 times 3 would be 30. So make sure that you do the problems that we circled. We will check these in class, and if you have any questions, be sure to write those questions down and ask them in class tomorrow.